I hope you guys are having an amazing summer as we inch closer and closer to autumn and school starting back up and overall just getting into a more rhythmic lifestyle. We are loving the random plans, all of the fun summer things that we have been having going on. This week I was working on a couple of really cute and fun sewing projects that I'm super excited to show you guys shortly, and making some fun recipes in the kitchen. This little device is called the Blooming Face Pro. I have been using it and loving it, so I want to show you guys how it works. It uses microcurrent technology to tighten the skin around your jaw and on your face. It also improves product penetration, so that is why I always use it right after I wash my face in the morning, because I feel like that is the best time so that all of the good skincare, the money that I'm spending on my skincare products is really soaking in, and this is doing a good job of making it penetrate even more. I just used it on only one half of my face, and you can already tell that this side is more toned, less puffy, and just overall looks better than this side, which is just incredible to me. I love that you can see results so quickly with the Blooming Face Pro. If you want to try the Blooming Face Pro yourself, there is a link in my description, and with that link you will get $70 off for the first 100 people. So the Blooming Face Pro is normally $150, but with the link in my description you can get $70 off. And lastly, my favorite part about Blooming is that if you do not see results, there is no need to pay. So I already know you guys are going to love it. Make sure to check out the link in my description to get yourself a Blooming Face Pro. As a stay-at-home mom, our days can go a lot of different directions, especially in the summer, because like I said, in the summer it's just more often that random plans pop up and all that kind of stuff. But really all year our days can go kind of any direction, which I love as an extrovert. But our mornings around here, at least, pretty much stay the exact same every single day. While I am making breakfast, usually the baby is playing just in the pantry, honestly just destroying the kitchen, and I make some coffees for me and my husband. Oftentimes I will have the Bible app playing aloud a gospel passage or a chapter of one of the gospels, just so we can get that kind of in our minds for the day. I like a morning routine to have kind of all of the things that we need to set us up for the day. So some caffeine, some good protein. I try to take all my vitamins during that time, and playing aloud some scripture so that we are equipped for whatever the day might bring. It's been a while since I've shared that I got our fridge at an estate sale nearby, and it is from 1961. It is the color canary yellow, and it is still running in tip-top shape, and we absolutely love it. In the sewing room, I had a couple of darling little projects to do this week. I want to share those with you guys, but first I want to talk to you guys about assembling patterns and getting them printed, because this is a question that I get a lot. So I try not to have to assemble them at home like I am doing right now, If I'm going to assemble at home, I try for it to just be a children's pattern. I try not to do this with women's patterns or patterns for myself, mostly because kids don't care. If the armhole is a little bit messed up, they don't care as much as I would. They grow out of it faster. It's just a different ballgame with kids. And also the patterns for children are a lot smaller, so it's a lot less to assemble. If I am not printing them at home, I get them printed locally just from a print shop. But there is an online place that I am wanting to test out for you guys so that you guys have that option, because sometimes local print shops can be harder to find. Another question that I get all the time is, where are these little weights from? And these are just a pack of washers from the hardware store. So those are readily available if you want to use them as your pattern weights. Okay, now actually into what we are making this week. We have a couple special events coming up, a birthday party and a baby shower, and I love really thoughtful gifts. And so I decided that I wanted to make little dresses for each of the events. I decided to make them in batches and cut out 2 at one time and sew them together. One tip for sewing in batches that I can give you from this project is to make sure that they would use the same color thread. It is not nearly as handy if they are not the same color thread. So if you are watching this and thinking, she did that way out of order, it's because I probably did, to avoid having to rethread the machine constantly. Now, obviously, threading a sewing machine is not a big deal, but there were just little things I could do that made it to where I didn't have to rethread it really all that much. While I am assembling these dresses, I wanted to just share with you guys my journey with sewing. I think it's easy to assume that whenever someone sews, they have been doing it their whole lives, their whole family does it. They were born knowing how to sew, and that is not the case for me. Really, I've been familiar with sewing for a really long time, but have not taken it seriously, if that's the way I want to put it, until very, very recently. Now, I should clarify that I do have family members who sew. My mom knows how to sew. I believe her mom taught her how to sew. I'd have to ask my mom. I'm not sure who taught her. And then my oldest sister enjoys sewing as well, and her daughter enjoys sewing as well. And I have one other niece who really enjoys it. So we do have a lot of fun with that, and it is very handy for the little questions that you need to decipher that you're constantly Googling whenever you are starting out. But ultimately, sewing is something that I really decided I wanted to learn more about this year, and kind of got into on my own. Thankfully, we live in a time where every question can be quickly searched online, and it will pull up literally infinite pages of tutorials on how to do it, especially with sewing. And so I did learn a lot of those techniques on my own, but it has been really, really fun to have sort of a community around it. Like, I share sewing nights that we do often, and to learn from each other in that way. As far as my journey with sewing, many of you guys might know that I used to have an embroidery business. That is what I did before I was a stay-at-home mom. We had a little Etsy shop and sold monogrammed things on Etsy. And so you would think that the crossover would be very high, that I know how to run sewing machines, that I could just hit the ground running with sewing garments. And actually, the crossover is shockingly low. Basically, the only thing I brought over with me from the embroidery business, I ran that for 8 years, is how to thread the machine. So aside from sergers, which is what I'm using now, sewing machines and embroidery machines thread extremely similarly. All of them, no matter the brand, no matter what, they all thread pretty much the exact same. It's a very simple mechanism. So that is about all I brought with me from the embroidery business for sewing garments. I bought my first sewing machine, which is this one, about 3 or 4 years ago. And for probably the past 3 years, I have only used it for small projects like curtains and pillowcases whenever I couldn't find what I wanted in stores. And then when my daughter was born, I started making a couple garments for her, started learning some basic techniques, and really started to consume sewing content. So I would listen to podcasts and watch YouTube videos and kind of learn how patterns came together. And then it wasn't until after that I decided I really wanted to start making more garments for myself and started getting into it, which was basically at the beginning of this year. So I say often that I am a beginner, and that is because I really think I am. I just started sewing seriously less than a year ago. I also consider myself a beginner in the kitchen, sewing and cooking, learning both of these, and still obviously trying to learn more about both of those skills has taught me a lot about the learning process in and of itself. I have been taking cooking seriously a little longer than sewing, and it took me a while to actually enjoy it. But there are definitely some things I learned about learning throughout that process. For me, I have to just full-blown commit to a recipe or a pattern and just kind of learn it along the way. I did 6 months straight of paleo, which basically means you are cooking every meal from home. And I learned how to cook during that time because I was following so many recipes. And then I started to notice things that were coming together, like the way you assemble a soup and all of the things, like all the little things that you need to know to cook efficiently started to all click for me. And the same exact thing happened with sewing. I learned how to assemble a shirt and all those sorts of things. So that's just a little note about learning before I dive into what I'm making. This week I tried a new recipe, and it is ground beef bulgogi. It is traditionally made with ribeye, or at least that's what the website said. And I am always looking for ways to use ground beef creatively because I buy my beef in bulk. So we get a lot of ground beef. And whenever I saw a fun way to make it in a Korean style, I was fully in. So this recipe, we've actually had it on repeat. We love it. It uses a Korean chili sauce, some kimchi, and you make this like kimchi sauce with all of those ingredients combined. And then you add some soy sauce, some sesame oil, and some good spices to the ground beef. Make some white rice, fry up some eggs, cut up some green onions, and you have yourself a lovely recipe. As always, I hope this video was inspiring to you, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week.